let's knock out one more example with power series. Sort of the opposite of a couple of the ones that we've been doing. Here, I want you to find the power series and interval and radius of convergence of f of x equals 1 over the quantity 1 minus x squared. This is a little bit different because you might note that f of x does not equal the integral of anything, but rather it equals the derivative of a known function that we need. Does everyone see that? Right? If you take the derivative of 1 over 1 minus x, right? 1 over 1 minus, just do this on the side, 1 minus x to the negative 1, right? Take the derivative, and you get negative 1 minus x to the negative 2, except then you have to multiply by negative 1 because of the chain rule. Okay? And so this winds up equaling 1 over 1 minus x quantity squared, right? The negatives and then cancel out. Right? You're good to go. Okay. So anyway, that's just a little aside. Trust me, the derivative works out. So here what we have to do is say, okay, this is the derivative, and we know then that the derivative is going to be of the sum from 0 to infinity of x to the n. And this is, of course, when x is between 1 and negative 1, right? So the interval of convergence is going to be clear here, as is the radius of convergence, right? But we'll write it at the end. We'll remember. Trust me. All right? And this is not so bad, right? To take the derivative of this, we're just going to, do what you think we would do, right? As with integrals, keep the coefficients the same, although in this case that's pretty easy because there are no coefficients, right, that we had to worry about. We're just going to take the derivative of x to the n, we're going to get that. And x to the n minus 1. And just to be clear, not that you would need to write this unless I asked, but just to be clear, this is, well, I guess it's 0 times x to the negative 1. That doesn't really matter. And then we're going to get 1 times x to the 0 plus 2x, well, why am I? 2x to the 1 plus 3x to the 2 plus 4x to the 3, etc., right? So that's what we're going to wind up getting. Let me clean that up a little bit. There we go. A little bit nicer, okay? All right. We'll get rid of that part, right? So that's what you can expect to see, and maybe we'll just write this a little bit nicer, actually. Maybe we'll just clean this up a little bit more and say 1 plus 2x plus 3x squared plus 4x cubed plus blah, 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 right? And that's your answer, right? Just to be clear, the interval of convergence is negative 1 to 1 and radius 1, okay? So that's how you do it, right? So it's sort of the opposite. A little easier than the integration, I think, because you don't have to solve for c in this case. But the thing that is a little bit tricky is that you need to notice that this is the derivative of 1 over 1 minus x, and you have to check your work to make sure you're not off by a negative sign or a coefficient or something like that, okay? So just be a little careful with that.